إن شاء الله نبدأ مع الدكتورة Maha Azam. Again, she's the head of the Egyptian for Democracy in the United Kingdom. نرحب بها جميعا، أهلا وسهلا.
It's a great pleasure for me to be here with you and a great honor. It's a very good opportunity to be here in Washington, to meet with you and to share with you the fears and the crisis that we are going through in our country, Egypt. I came here as part of the diplomatic delegation, and we had already toured Europe in October, November, meeting with human rights organizations and UN agencies and the European Union. We came here also to meet with policymakers, and we felt that we had reached a stage in Egypt where actually the situation has become increasingly one that is dangerous not only to us as Egyptians and to our people in Egypt, but also to the international community. There is concern throughout the world as to the dangers of this military dictatorship. There is still support for it, undoubtedly, but there is also recognition that things did not turn out as some of the supporters of the coup had intended. What we are seeing before us now is the return of a brutal military dictatorship in Egypt. A dictatorship that lasted for 60 years. And for a short period after January 25th and the beginnings of a democratic process and 5 elections, 5 different opportunities for Egyptians to cast their vote and to make their choices. All that was put aside after the coup on July the 3rd. What followed in the last few months, I am sure you are all aware of, has been an escalation in human rights violations unknown in Egypt, except for some of the parallels under Nasser. The consistent abuse of human rights continues daily. The shooting of innocent protesters, men and women, the arbitrary arrest of men, women and children, of doctors, of journalists, of academics, of children. The abuse is unknown in terms of its consistency and its vengeful side as well. What we see is a security apparatus and a police force that is not held accountable, but one that is vengeful. Vengeful for the very fact that people came out on January the 25th, 2011, and wanted to hold them accountable. The whole issue today in Egypt is about the success of a counter-revolution against the wishes and hopes and aspirations of a people. Yes, that people is the people themselves are somewhat polarized today, but we don't know the numbers. People are always telling us outside in the West when we meet them, although less so now, that General Sisi, or Field Marshal Sisi today, has support. Yes, he may have support. Like all fascist regimes in the past, they've always had support. But we don't know what level of support. I wonder now whether any journalist, if they can walk freely in Egypt, and that is not the case. Egypt is one of the most dangerous places in the world, if not the most dangerous place in the world for a journalist. But if a journalist were to stop someone, a member of the public, and ask them what they thought of the general, the Republic of Fear would ensure that that person would say that they were a supporter of Sisi. The only true way to find out is through free and fair elections. And that is why the general at the time and his supporters made sure that the Egyptian people would not go to parliamentary elections on the president Morsi. They wanted to ensure that the show of anger that was shown on the 30th of June would not really be measured through the ballot box. Despite the fact that large numbers came out on the 30th of June, we'll never know what the Egyptian people really thought, or what the Egyptian people really want. And the problem with the opposition has always been that it has been reluctant to accept the democratic process. They were reluctant to accept the decision of the Egyptian people to elect President Morsi and for him to fulfill his term. It is true that those who came out on the 30th of June were demanding early elections, and they weren't asking for a coup. But what they did then was impact enormously, in political terms, on allowing for the coup to take place. And they are to a large extent bear a degree of responsibility now to ensure that they stand against this military coup. What we need to do as a community within the United States and Europe, where I am based, is to ensure that we unite our efforts, whatever our political views. And this delegation symbolizes, to a large extent, a broad spectrum of political opinion. We share a great deal, but we also differ on many points. And that is also a reflection of the communities we live in. But the important thing is how to work together, how to ensure we create a broad alliance that reflects, hopefully, a broad alliance that will also emerge in Egypt, our country. One that will oppose the military until we bring down this coup. Our differences are no greater than any political party or political community in democracies, but we still have to accept the other and to discriminate less. What we are seeing in Egypt today is a consistent attempt to create division between Egyptian and Egyptian, to ensure that civil strife is just around the corner. And there is civil strife. There is the fear of sectarianism in our country. There is the fear of an Egyptian justifying the murder of another Egyptian. It is extraordinary that after the massacre of Rabaa and the Nahda, people can justify what's happened in the name of a war on terror. What happened in those massacres, as what happened elsewhere in the murder of innocent Egyptian citizens, whoever they may be, were crimes against humanity. And I've said it before, and I will say it again today, and I said it yesterday in New Jersey. Those who are responsible for the crimes committed against the Egyptian people, whether they be under the orders of Sisi, or the security forces, or the police who committed the crimes, or the interim government of Mansour and Bedlawi and every member of that interim government. Each one of them must be held accountable for the crimes committed against our people. The innocent must have justice. And we will not have arbitrary justice because we are better than them. We will we will put them on trial. We will put them on trial, whether it be at the International Criminal Court or in the courts of Egypt one day, inshallah. The struggle today may be a long-term one, but the work that needs to be done speedily. Everyone has to work within their capacity and their ability to be creative, and we have a great deal of creativity among our young. There are so many new ideas as to what to do and how to approach congressmen and women to win over the public, to create activities in academic centers and beyond, to engage with the media. But all this needs to be speeded up. It can happen under a broad umbrella, but all must be allowed to work in their own way and up to according to their own capacity. But we need to speed up what we are doing. The military regime in Egypt is consistently approaching Western governments to put forward their case. Their case is weak. Our cause is just and can find a lot of people who are willing to listen, but we need to find the best way in which to get our message across. It takes hard work and it takes commitment. And I know there is a great deal of dedication among our community here in the United States and elsewhere. We must harness those capabilities, because however much we do and however much we sacrifice, it will be nothing compared to the men and women, and I repeat women, who go out every day in Egypt knowing that they may not return after they go out to protest. So we are duty-bound to continue for their sake and for ours, because what we are confronting today in Egypt, yes, is a struggle for democracy and for a civil state in a country that we hold dear and a country that we love. But it is also about a greater fight that even if we were not Egyptians, is a very compelling struggle. It is very similar to the struggle of others against fascist dictatorship. It is very similar to the struggle of those, for example, that fought against Pinochet in Chile, or against those that wanted to bring down dictatorship in Eastern Europe. Ours is no different. It is a long and arduous struggle, but it is a struggle that we must fight both on the inside and outside. And the outside is very important because Egypt matters to the outside world. But our message must be that democracy is a means to bring about our security and stability. And supporting dictatorship is not only contrary to values and freedoms that the West supposedly upholds, but it also endangers their interests. We are not in this fight in order to oppose anyone or to terrorize anyone. We are in this fight in order to bring democracy and development to our people. A people, the majority of which have lived in poverty. A people that has for 60 years lived under military dictatorship that has not delivered to them. It delivered only to an elite that is corrupt. And that corruption permeates every aspect of Egyptian society. It permeates the military that controls 40% of our economy, maybe a little less, maybe 30, maybe 40%, it doesn't matter. What it does control is an economy in which it has a stranglehold. And that stranglehold needs to be loosened in order for the country to invite investments and for it to develop. There is the stranglehold and corruption of an elite that has exploited the wealth of the nation. There is the corruption of a judiciary that is at the service of the military, that has always been at the service of the military. The idea that Egypt's judiciary was independent, yes, there were some elements in Egypt's judiciary that were honest and true to their profession. But ultimately, no dictatorship survives without the judiciary supporting it, in the same way that Franco's Spain survived with the corruption and the work of a judiciary that worked in the favor of a dictator. The same happened in Egypt for many decades. A dictatorship does not survive without the propaganda of a media. All that needs to be changed. The work will begin once the coup is defeated. But what is important is that we learn to unite outside, so that can be a reflection of how we will work together once the coup is over, in order to reform the institutions of our country and to build a solid democracy and a civil state that doesn't discriminate against any, but upholds the rule of law and respects human rights and reverses decades of suffering for the majority of our people. Thank you very much.